You know you're dealing with a dangerous snack when the bag basically dares you to open it. Takis aren't chips, they're edible firecrackers, one crunch, and suddenly your tongue's on a roller coaster ride between, wow, this is amazing, and why am I sweating like I just ran a marathon? They're crunchy, spicy, and so red they look like they were seasoned on the surface of Mars, and yet we can't stop eating them. It's a love-hate relationship at emphasis on the love part, because once you've had one, the whole bag mysteriously disappears. But here's what most people don't know while they're licking that neon red dust off their fingers. Takis aren't just thrown together in some factory by a guy with a chili shaker. Nope. Behind every bag is a ridiculous amount of science, engineering, and borderline culinary sorcery. Making these spicy little tornadoes is so complicated, it's basically snack NASA. And once you know how they're made, you'll never look at them the same way again. It all starts in the least dramatic place imaginable, a field full of corn. Not the sweet, buttery kind you eat at a barbecue. We're talking about the tough, no-nonsense field corn that's been feeding civilizations for centuries. And before it can become your favorite crunchy addiction, it has to go through a transformation straight out of an ancient cooking manual. The process is called nixtamalization, which sounds like a spell Harry Potter would use, but is actually a 4,000-year-old technique invented in Mesoamerica. The corn is cooked in lime water, which softens the tough outer shell and changes its structure in magical ways. It also boosts the nutrition and gives it that chewy, pliable texture that's perfect for rolling. And basically, the corn goes into the spa and comes out ready for the runway. Once the kernels are soft and plump, they're ground into a masa dough, and this is where snack science gets picky. Too smooth, and the dough won't hold its shape. Too rough, and it'll crack during frying. It needs to be juiced right, soft enough to roll, but sturdy enough to survive a 375-degree Fahrenheit oil bath later on. Think of it as the Goldilocks of dough, balanced, flexible, and ready to become the fiery tubes of happiness we know and love. Now comes the part that turns regular corn into Takis, the rolling. And let me tell you, this is not a simple roll it up and call it a day situation. Nope. Rolling Takis is an engineering nightmare. The dough gets pressed into thin sheets, thinner than a tortilla, but thicker than a piece of paper, and then sliced into perfect little triangles. These triangles have to be rolled into tight spirals within 90 seconds before they dry out and crumble. 90 seconds. That's barely enough time to open the fridge and forget why you went there. To pull this off, factories use custom-built rolling machines that are so precise, they make Swiss watchmakers look sloppy. These machines grab each triangle, curl it into a perfect spiral, and even shape it wider on one end and narrower on the other. Not for aesthetics, but because that tapered shape traps more seasoning in the grooves. Yes, they literally engineered Takis to hold more flavor. That's dedication. But the dough spirals coming off the line are still soft. More like uncooked pasta than the crunchy fire sticks we're obsessed with. So they take a quick trip through the fryers, and this isn't your average deep fryer. It's a carefully controlled hot oil system with multiple temperature zones. The first zone is a flash fry sauna, sealing the spiral shape in place like snack cement. The second zone finishes the job, pulling out moisture and unlocking that deep corn flavor. The whole frying process lasts exactly 47 seconds. 1 second longer and the chips turn into spicy glass shards, 1 second less, and they're floppy disappointments. Somewhere out there, there's a snack engineer whose entire career depends on 47 perfect seconds. Oh, and while we're talking frying, the oil isn't just hot grease. It's monitored with sensors that constantly check its quality, and it gets replaced the moment it starts breaking down, because if the oil's not right, the chips taste like sadness instead of victory, and we can't have that. When the spirals emerge from their oil bath, they're golden, crispy, and hollow, kind of like crunchy little corn tornadoes, but they're also still naked. And Takis without seasoning is like a roller coaster without loops, technically functional but completely missing the point. Enter the star of the show, that infamous fuego dust. Now, if you're imagining someone tossing chili powder into a tumbler and calling it a day, think again. Takis seasoning is a carefully crafted blend of more than 30 ingredients. There's chili for heat, citric acid for tang, lime flavor for brightness, and a bunch of other spices that work together to create that punch-in-the-mouth flavor, and fear. It's basically edible rocket fuel. The seasoning process is a show in itself. First, the chips get a light mist of warm oil, so like a primer coat for spice. Then they're loaded into massive rotating drums that look like something you'd mix cement in. As the chips tumble around, the seasoning rains down and clings to every curve and groove. And once again, precision is everything. If the drum spins too fast, the chips break apart. Too slow, and the seasoning doesn't coat evenly. The temperature even matters. The drums are heated just enough to help the flavors absorb into the chip's surface. The whole process takes 4.5 minutes of constant tumbling, and by the end, each chip is coated so thoroughly, it looks like it just survived a dust storm in hell. And we're still not done. Before these fiery spirals ever reach a shelf, they go through a level of testing you'd expect for airplane parts, not snack food. There's a crunch test where machines measure exactly how much force it takes to break a chip. There's a heat test, ensuring the spice intensity is perfectly calibrated. Infrared cameras scan each batch to make sure the seasoning is evenly distributed. And yes, there are professional taste testers, actual humans whose job is to eat Takis all day and make sure every bag tastes identical. Dream job or worst nightmare? Hard to say. Even the packaging is more advanced than you think. Those shiny bags? They're made of multiple protective layers to keep oxygen out, because oxygen is the enemy of crunch. Before sealing, each bag is flushed with nitrogen gas to replace the air inside. It's not there to be fancy. It's there so the chips stay fresh and the fiery coating doesn't fade before it hits your tongue, and once they're sealed, that's it. The spicy little spirals are ready for battle, sitting on store shelves just waiting for someone brave or foolish enough to grab a bag and challenge their taste buds. But the story of Takis doesn't end in the factory. Oh no, that's just the beginning. Because once those fiery spirals hit the shelves, they stop being just snacks. They become cultural icons. These things have turned ordinary people into chili-craving maniacs. Entire TikTok challenges exist where people try to eat an entire bag without crying. There are YouTube videos with millions of views of people ranking flavors from mildly painful to call the fire department. And let's be honest, at some point, we've all stared at a half-finished bag and thought, I should probably stop, before immediately reaching in for just one more. But Takis aren't just a meme or a dare. They're a perfect example of how tradition and innovation can crash into each other to create something epic. That ancient nixtamalization technique we talked about, it's been around since long before snack aisles existed, and yet it's the key to why Takis taste so good and have that perfect bite. The custom-built machinery that rolls the dough, no one had ever tried that in snack production before. It's literally a one-of-a-kind process designed for one purpose: to deliver maximum crunch and maximum flavor with every single bite. Even the flavor lineup shows how Takis has evolved from a niche Mexican snack into a global phenomenon. The OG Fuego, with its lime chili chaos, is still the king. But now there are versions for every spice tolerance. There's Blue Heat, which looks like something aliens would snack on but tastes like spicy lime lightning. There's Nitro, with a deeper, smokier kick. And for those who want to experience the thrill without burning off their taste buds, there are milder versions made for international markets. No matter your spice level, there's a Takis with your name on it, how? Though it might be written in tears. And because spicy doesn't have to mean selfish, Takis is also trying to clean up its act. Literally. In recent years, the company teamed up with TerraCycle to solve one of the least appetizing parts of the snack world, the fact that chip bags are basically impossible to recycle. Now, instead of tossing them in the trash and dooming them to landfill eternity, you can mail them off to be turned into playground equipment or park benches. That's right. The same thing that set your mouth on fire could one day support your kid on a swing set. Circle of Life, Snack Edition. What's fascinating is that this whole fiery empire started pretty humbly. Takis was born in Mexico in the 1990s and grew steadily before exploding in the US, where the hunger for spicy snacks was already heating up. Now they're everywhere. Gas stations, lunch boxes, vending machines, and grocery store end caps that practically shout, "I dare you." They're more than just chips. They're part of pop culture. They've been featured in songs, parodied in memes, and debated in classrooms by people who treat Fuego versus Blue Heat like a Supreme Court case. But perhaps the most impressive thing about Takis isn't their flavor or their viral fame. It's the fact that something so small and so silly can represent so much creativity, engineering, and cultural crossover. Think about it. Every step of the process, from cooking that corn with lime water, to shaping it with machines that don't exist anywhere else, to coating it with a flavor mix that would stump a Michelin-starred chef, is designed for one single moment. That crunch, that burn, that ridiculous, glorious, slightly masochistic joy you feel when you grab a handful and instantly regret it, but still go back for more. And that's the secret of Takis. They're not just about taste, they're about experience. They're about seeing how much heat you can handle, daring your friends to outspice you, and proudly wearing that red powder on your fingers like a badge of honor. They're the snack that doesn't just feed you, it tests you, and if you can handle them, you feel a little bit tougher, a little more unstoppable, like someone who could run a marathon, or at least finish the bag without crying. So, the next time you tear into that crinkly bag and feel the wave of spice hit you, remember everything that went into making that moment happen. Remember the ancient technique that made the corn just right. The engineers who built machines precise enough to roll a chip in under a second. The scientists who calibrated frying times down to the exact second. The flavor experts who balanced over 30 spices to hit you with heat, tang, and citrus all at once. That's the crazy part. All of that effort, all of that science, just so you can sit on your couch, binge watch a show, and accidentally eat 2,000 calories worth of corn spirals without realizing it. But hey, that's the magic of snacks, right? You know, they seem so simple, so casual, but behind the scenes, they're marvels of tradition, technology, and taste. And Takis, they're the spicy little overachievers of the snack world. They don't just show up, they kick down the door and set your tongue on fire for good measure. Now, the real question is, how far can you go? Are you a casual nibbler who taps out after 3 chips and a glass of milk? Or are you the type who finishes an entire bag in one sitting and still wonders if there's a hotter flavor out there? Either way, drop your spice level in the comments. I want to know how much heat you can handle, and if you enjoyed this peek behind the curtain of the world's most chaotic snack, hit that like button, share this with your fellow spice addicts, and get ready, because this is just the beginning. The snack world is full of stories even hotter than this one.